Okay, thank you, Todd. All right, I'll call the May 21st meeting of the council to order. There is no MPC today, so we will start right into the council meeting. And no one is excused. We are expecting Tracy to join our meeting at any time. She's having some internet connection problems. The joys of virtual meetings. So, first thing on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes from the May 7th meeting. Kelly will move, or Kelly has a...
Yeah, Molly, just a question maybe on the wording in the title. I've noticed other meetings where it says the meeting was held virtually on Thursday, May 7th. I wondered if that would, I know in the next paragraph it talks about live streaming, but it doesn't ever say anywhere that we're not in the building.
We can.
I wondered.
So I couldn't get to what you were talking about, Kelly. I've got there now. So you want to add that we were,
well,
as a regular council meeting of the County of Newell was live streamed?
No, not that. The regular council meeting of the County of Newell was held virtually on Thursday, May 7th. And that doesn't have anything to do with live streaming. That's a different topic. But the fact that we weren't physically in the building, I think, should be recorded.
Okay.
I will move with that edit if you would like.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor of that addition to the minutes, that little amendment? Opposed? No one is opposed, so that motion is carried to approve the minutes. So next is the adoption of the agenda. Lionel? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Are there
I guess the post-agenda items.
I missed the post-agenda items. Were there any post-agenda items? Sorry. I didn't see any hands, so. All right. So the agenda is okay as is then. We have adopted. Anne-Marie, Brian, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an ICF update.
So that's in camera?
Please.
Oh. Anything else? Okay, seeing nothing, I guess I'll call for a revote. Who moved the minutes be adopted? Or I'm having trouble. Adoption of the agenda. Because did not we do that already? Lionel, you moved it? Okay, all in favor of the addition to the agenda? Opposed? Motion is carried. I'll get used to this after we've quit doing these meetings like this. Question period, notice of a motion. That's not emotion, that's notice of motion. Anything today?
Is there any public?
Todd?
Yeah, we have Sandra on. She says that the live stream is frozen, but it's working on my end. So I'm not sure if it's on her end or not.
Is anyone frozen? I see everybody looking okay. All right, anything else, Todd?
No, that is it.
All right. The next item on our agenda is the public hearings at 11:30.
Molly,
Yes?
if the live streaming is frozen and nobody can observe the council, can we continue? Just a question.
Well, I don't know the answer to that.
Good news. It is working again for Sandra in her office, and it looks like a few others chimed in too, Roberta and Ariana, that it's working. So should be good to go.
I'm thinking that there will always be times when we're doing this, that there will be things like this happen. All right, so we'll move to item, I think item 8.6. Does that work, Lane?
That does, and I think that Jeff and Ariana will lead the discussion on this one.
Okay. Jeff, good morning.
Jeff, you're muted.
Good morning. Now we can hear, I assume. Thank you.
All good.
Before you in the package, you have an RFD with regards to an update to the records retention and disposition bylaw, bylaw 1841-15. We've done a lot of work at the County of Newell, and I shouldn't say we, I should really point towards the people that are doing it, and those are the people that work daily with Laserfish and our electronics management records system. And in the past decade, we've come an unbelievable way from having, files and files and boxes full of paper records and paper history dating back to the 50s and 40s and so on and so forth. And today we're in such a great spot that all of those documents, for the most part, are filed and organized in a structure that is documented. It has ease of access. They're easily searchable, and it makes life a lot easier and more efficient. I won't ramble. What the point of this RFD is we'd like to follow the path of what the MD of Greenview has done, and I believe a lot of municipalities probably have or will be in the near future following this path as well. And what that is just making it official that the official records of the County of Newell are in fact the electronic record as opposed to the paper copy. We've reviewed this at the management team level and received positive comments on it. We are very comfortable that electronic records will satisfy all of the needs that we have. We're confident in the fact that we can prove those electronic records to be originals, non-altered, and follow up with everything necessary in actually producing a record. What making our electronic records the official record is going to do for us is it's going to allow us to make a lot of the paper records that we currently have scan into electronic file, and then we file for the identified retention schedule. We're going to be able to get rid of that filing and destruction afterwards, and those records will become transitory. So once they've been scanned into the Laserfish system and the backup has occurred, we now have our official copy of that record, and those records will be able to be destroyed as per the policy. Like I say, this is going to save a lot of time for filing and managing and keeping up with paper copies, where Laserfish has a lot of great features that will do some of these things for us and help us along the way. So I guess that being said, those are some of the main reasons we'd like to go towards this. We are in a digital age. We're all meeting on my computer screen, all 15 or 16 of us, and it is the way things are going, and we do think it's going to create major efficiencies for the people that deal with those types of things. So I don't know if Ariana has anything else to add, because when I pointed earlier to the people that have done all the work in the last decade, she leads that charge. So if she has anything else.
I think Jeff covered it really nicely there. It would save a great deal of time. And the thing about electronic records, once you get them in there, they're searchable, like a lot easier than flipping through a paper file. So I think it's going to be a lot better. That's all.
One other thing to mention is, you know, we've come a long way with the systems that we use and Laserfiche forms and everything else, that a lot of our records, we only create a digital copy of our records now. We've moved to gravel tickets and using systems and things like that, where we don't even create paper copies. So we've already taken that step out of a lot of it. And what we'd like to do is continue to build on that. So yeah, I'm happy to help answer any questions.
Brian.
So I know there's security built into it, but could you maybe briefly outline how that would happen? Because in my world of not being very techno savvy, I always think about when Jordan did his presentation on hackers and how they're always out there trying to infiltrate your files. So that's my only question is how do we assure the security of the documents that are in our possession?
Ariana, do you want to take this one?
One sec. I could try. There's a lot of documentation on Laserfiche. It is, I'm not going to say this right, but it is certified by the U.S. Department of National Defense. So if it gets their approval for security, further to that, it is behind our firewalls, and I believe it's automatically encrypted. So there are several levels of security. And then for a hacker to get in, everyone has a login that's tied to their Windows login. And then document security is applied ideally by groups, but you can go down and lock people out of individual documents. And there's a lot of ways to keep people out of stuff. So IT would be better to answer this question about security, but I don't think we have a lot of worries in that respect with Laserfiche's built-in security features, as well as the layers of firewalls that we have on our servers.
One thing just to add on to Ariana's commentary there is, you know, we currently do have data stored in Laserfiche that is sensitive information. However, it is on the internal side of Laserfiche, and I see somebody that might be able to answer some more questions about this. The public-facing portal of Laserfiche that is attached to our website is just like Ariana mentions. We have the ability to create securities on specific folders, files, areas, or specific documents as to who and how they can access those. And yeah.
Thanks, Ariana. And Jeff, and Roberta is available now too. We're just talking a bit about security, and Clarence also has a question. So Clarence, do you want to listen to Roberta, or do you want to ask your question?
It's a bit different subject, so go ahead.
Okay, Roberta.
So I just wanted to say, like a building, so we have locks to come into the building, we have locks to get into a room, and we have locks to get into drawers where paper files are. Our digital system is the same way. So we have different layers of protection that protects our information. And like Jeff said, already we create a lot of digital records, and they don't go into the physical filing room. They still are electronic on our system, the same as Laserfiche. So there's really no difference between what we're doing today with our electronic documents as what we would do if we kept them in Laserfiche. They're actually better protected in Laserfiche, because it's one more layer of security that's put on them. If that makes sense?
Other security questions? Clarence?
Well, I guess it was just mostly, you know, when you hear about when the U of C gets hacked and, you know, to the tune of, I can't remember how hundreds of thousands of dollars that it cost them to basically get their records back. You know, that's always a concern. But I have full faith in what you guys have put out. Mostly that's because I have so little knowledge when it comes to what is there. So if you guys are confident with it, I'm confident with it. But I just tried to get a little understanding of how that's set up. But I'm comfortable with what my explanation is. Thank you.
Clarence?
Well, my question is to deal with, probably not so much with this particular part of it, but also from before is, in days I think somewhere in the mid-90s, the county stopped being responsible for school board stuff. So where are those records? Are they also being transferred, or are they with school board already?
I got this one. I believe these school board records, including like teacher timesheets, are still in the vault downstairs, because from time to time we do get a call from someone who's, I guess, registering for their pension, and Natalie has to go find it for them. I think I've made the offer several times that Grasslands can come take them. They have not. They're welcome to them. Yeah. We still have them in the vault in paper form. No plans to transfer them electronically, but I guess we could if we had to.
Well, that was kind of my question, whether we would be responsible for doing that or not, or after a certain period of time, do we still have to keep those types of records? Do we not? Just more of an item of interest.
Are they permanent? I don't know for sure. I'd have to do some more research to determine whether they're permanent. Like, ideally, they're school board records, so they should be with the school board. Nobody really wants them on school files for some reason. I don't know why.
Maybe that could be something that we talk to Grasslands about, because I would think it would be a good place to should have them rather than us. And I mean, if they want them in a electronic form, that should be their responsibility, I would think, to do that. It's interesting because you know, the past has been filled with the discovery of wonderful documents one has found that's 100 years old. So the whole concept of electronic information is hard for me to wrap my head around. But I'm like others that have spoken. We have a highly competent IT department who have worked hard on this, and if it weren't for them and people like Ariana, I would say forget it. But I will support this. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for first reading of this bylaw.
I'll make that motion, Molly.
Oh, I caught Anne Marie's hand first, Lionel. Sorry. So Anne has made a motion for first reading. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And a motion for third reading or second reading. Lionel will move second reading. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for consent for third reading, Alan moves. All in favor? Opposed? Is there anyone opposed to third reading? Seeing none, that is considered consent for third reading. And a motion for third reading, please. QB moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, IT department, and Jeff, planning, and Ariana, of course, as well. Now, I see someone present for item
That will be Friday.
for the
8-5.
8.5, yes, good. The boating safety and aquatic invasive species. And there must have been lawyers involved in this bylaw. It's very obvious when I tried to read through it. That's all I'll say. Anyhow, welcome, Devin, I think it is there.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, we'll let you take it away with your request for a decision in regards to this bylaw.
Okay, so since the first reading, we had some questions and comments come back from the public, which were answered. We also had some recommendations come in from the Alberta Environment and Parks Aquatic Invasive Species Department. So over with them, we made a few changes to the bylaw. We had a meeting on May 5th, just discussing some of the changes, and then went to the changes to the bylaw. They reviewed it, and going forward, everyone's been approves the bylaw and supports it.
Anybody have questions and comments? All right, then we would move to the second reading for this bylaw. Someone would like to make that motion? Move second reading. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. And a motion third reading. QB? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried for third reading. For your work on this, Devin, I'm sure it's a good job to have behind you. And how have you been involved with much of the boating business and the invasive so far? Has it been busy on our water bodies, or what's the scoop?
So far, yeah, at the beginning of May, everyone likes to go down to the south end and launch down there at the Rainier Draw, so we've been quite busy down there. But so far, just because it's been going on for a couple of years now, everyone's pretty accepting of it. So
you have the feeling that the boaters care and are concerned about making sure that they keep their equipment clean.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially the fishermen. The fishermen are depending on who you're dealing with, like a lot of pro fishermen come from a lot of different jurisdictions. A lot of areas already have these rules in place, so they're already pretty good with following our rules.
Good. Oh, that's awesome. Anything else today, Devin, then?
No, that was it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tracy, you're with us, and can you talk today?
I hope so.
Oh, yes.
Another technical issue, Dave. Oh, Edina. Oh well, we're sorted now.
Okay, perfect. Good to have you with us, and not permanently muted. Okay, Todd, are you ready to switch your hats?
I sure can. What would you like me to talk about, Molly?
Well, I I think we're at item 9.1, which is the Ag Service Board report. All the rest of it has to wait till bottom stuff at 11:30. So, yeah.
Alrighty.
Fieldman report.
I can certainly do that. I assume that everybody read it, and it's absolutely beautiful. I really think I should have been an author with how great I can write these things down. I'm just joking, obviously. So we've had a really great year for controlling Richardson ground squirrels. And this was last week, so we've sold to about 61 producers and just over 1,500 bottles of strychnine, which is great. And we continue to still sell some just about every day. We'll get a guy or two come in and pick some up. Our drills have been going crazy. It's always the middle of May is always our busiest time. So it's not always the greatest if we have a little bit of downtime. So a few minor repairs. Some guys had to do a few repairs. Some producers, some renters had to do a few repairs while they were out in the fields. And we've done a few as they come through Brooks, just in the shop. So I think everything else seems to be going well. You know, we've, again, this was last year, but about 650 acres on the conventional, 1,100 on the no-tills, and the Brilliants have been actually keeping up pretty good. We did have a pretty major breakdown on one Brilliant, but we kind of expected it. It's a 1989, and it's traveled all over our county a few times here and there. Not too much action on the livestock equipment yet. So just a few scale rentals, certainly with the 4-H programs being mostly shut down. The scale hasn't moved as much as normal. A couple calf table rentals. We were expecting a few more with that, just with the brandings and some of the restrictions on the COVID stuff, but guys still seem to get their brandings done. A couple loading chutes and a few traps. The one that seems pretty indicative of no large gatherings is we have not seen the barbecue move yet this year. So that's kind of crappy because she has a big, beautiful barbecue and it just loves to cook things. But certainly at some point in time, we'll get that back out. As far as the surveying goes, we do anticipate doing some clubroot, grasshoppers, bacterial ring rots, and a little bit of maybe virulent blackleg this summer. Blackleg, you guys know, is on canola, and we're hoping to do some of that at the same time as we're looking for clubroot. We did apply for a CAP funding grant to cover some of the costs of our seasonal crop pest surveys. We haven't heard back yet. My understanding was they opened the packages on May 1st and then go through them all. So hopefully we wordsmith the right words into the right places, and we'll get some grant funding to help do that. I think it's interesting to note that when we did get a loss in some of our ASB grant funding, we were kind of told that maybe there was an opportunity for CAP funding. So I guess hopefully we can get some of that to make these long-term surveillance projects worthwhile. We started on some downy brome weed inspecting right away May 1st when the new seasonal started. We've been monitoring some of our fall efforts with spraying some of the barrier products. I know that some of us have been down to Lake Newell Resort. We did spray the road right from the CRA all the way to, actually, I don't know if we went into Lake Newell Resort or we stopped at the intersection on the north end there, but you can see there's a lot of brown in the ditch. We actually didn't think quite as much of the ditch grass was foxtail, but it looks like it was quite a bit of foxtail just by the way it's all brown. But hopefully this rain will get everything else going that was just waiting. So roadside spraying, we were actually kind of hoping to be going today doing some of the road tops. That would be for municipal services, doing the road tops to limit how much grading we have to do. And then we also spray the kind of ditch bank for the road shoulder pull roads. So that was kind of what we were hoping to start this week. And then right around June 10th, we try to spray the road ditches for broadleaf weeds, and that's on the north side of the Trans-Canada Highway this year. So looking forward to that. Yeah, we kind of slowly came to terms with what season of camping was going to look like at Emerson. We did open it up for season-long camping today. I touched base with Will here. He said there was 1 or 2 people down there right away this morning. So, you know, that's a shows a little bit of promise. We've certainly heard both sides of the argument in recent days, but we're looking forward to having some campers down there in one form or another. Chris is back running the park. She started with us on Tuesday, getting all trained up and safetied up, and now we're rocking. So happy to report that. Hamlet subdivisions, airports, we are moving. Playgrounds have been closed. Still receiving an in-house inspection for deficiencies, and then it is always nice to have a third party go and look at these playgrounds, things that we might not pick up on that they have a better eye for. And I guess we'll get to that at some point in time. We use a fella from the city to do it, and I think they're pretty swamped as well with playground stuff. So when we get to it, we'll definitely let you know. Municipal partnerships are rolling well. Again, we were hoping to be in Bizano this week and the city of Brooks this week. You know what? We'll take the reign just like everybody else. We'll put some work off for a bit, and we'll get to her next week. We did end up with 5 new faces this season, 1 on our weed inspecting crew and 4 in our general labor groups. I think they all seem happy to be here, and they've definitely all been put to work. I think I've said this multiple times, but the first few weeks of any job, very steep learning curve. But we try to do a lot of hands-on education, and they have wonderful teammates to rely on. So we're happy to include them in our valuable AS family. And what else we got here? Field visits. Oh yes, for the hawk nesting poles, I mentioned the one on the the south end of our quarter here at the county building. We also put one up at the old Rolling Hills landfill and one at the old Rosemary landfill. So those are all up, and hopefully they have hawks hunting out of them. So that would be fantastic. But everything sure is operating a little bit differently this season, but we are looking forward to it being relatively normal soon.
Thank you, Todd. Anne-Marie.
Todd, you mentioned the city of Brooks opening playgrounds. Are you thinking about opening up the ones in Hamlets?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Anne-Marie, and I know I figured we would probably talk about this at some point in time. We did hear the city is looking at opening theirs, putting up some hand sanitizer stations. We're not exactly sure how that would work in our hamlet areas to fill hand sanitizer stations. So I guess what we might be looking for from you guys is a little bit of direction on what that looks like. Certainly we can open them up, and we were thinking of maybe putting some signage on them saying, you know, wash your hands, play at your own risk, that kind of thing. Just because we're spread out from, Tilly, Scandia, Patricia, Emerson, you know, we got the outdoor courts as well in Scandia and Lake Newell Resort. So it takes a long time for somebody to drive around and check and fill hand sanitizer or to clean a playground. And I don't know that we have the right labor resources to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think people should take responsibility themselves. And we didn't supply hand sanitizer when we had an outhouse, for instance, in Patricia either. So I'm okay with that.
Todd, I meant to send you the notes from the telephone town hall that the province had yesterday, and Dr. Henshaw was part of that, along with Municipal Affairs and Tanya for the Minister of Economic Development and a variety of things. But Dr. Henshaw was asked about the parks, and she said she did not want municipalities, the health people decided they didn't want municipalities having to take a lot of responsibility for the sanitation of parks, that it really has to be, that's impossible. And it really has to be up to the people who use them and the families. So I will forward you those notes. But she was quite clear about that. So I think our would be within the bounds of what the health people are. Other questions?
I did talk with Grasslands Public Schools because they they have many playgrounds in our hamlets as well. And they were just wondering, you know, what our direction was on our structures and you know, how we could kind of come up with the same sort of plan. And I told Sherry this morning, Sherry Sticka from Grasslands, that I would let her know what council kind of thought we should do. And then maybe we could work on the signage together so that, you know, in the hamlet of Tilly, for instance, we would have the same sign at both locations, ours and Grasslands playground structures. So we didn't have conflicting messaging.
That sounds excellent, Todd. Good communication. Lionel.
Todd, I want to get back to roadside spraying. Since I've been on council, there's been a number of changes. You've improvements, I hope. How well has that worked, and has there been quite a cost savings, or where are we at with that?
That's an interesting question. We talk about this lots internally on how we can do things better, and then we certainly do try. I think one of the things that we've done is we kind of cut out, so we used to spray with a 20-foot boom nozzle off the side of the truck and a 20-foot boom nozzle on the end of the boom. So what we ended up trying to spray was 40 feet. One of the problems with that system is not all of our roadside ditches are 40 feet from the road edge to the fence line. So sometimes we would have to double up a bit in the middle to try to get that right out to the fence line. And I think we've done a great job on most of our roads of cleaning up the fence line so we don't have lots of Canada thistle and other things that are spreading onto landowners' properties. So what we're trying to do now, Lionel, is we got 10-foot boom on the outside of a 10-foot boom buster nozzle on the outside of the boom, so that we cut that down to a 30-foot pass. And we're recommending that the guys don't run them as often as they used to try to. So we're trying to spray only 20 feet from the road edge down. That seems to be where the majority of our problems have existed in the last few years. So I guess in terms of cost savings, I guess we're hoping that does save us, you know, somewhere in that 30 to 50% of our chemical budget, just because we're spraying less. But that all being said, if the weed pressure is out there, we want to make sure that we're doing a good job too. We do enjoy, we try to be as frugal as possible. So we do a mixture of the more expensive products with our lesser cost products. Areas that are primarily, you know, a road driving through the prairie, they seem to have less weed pressure, so we'll use our least expensive chemicals there. And areas where we have more weed pressures in the irrigation country, we've been trying to utilize more of our longer lasting season-long control chemicals there.
Thanks, Todd.
Does that even come remotely close, Lionel?
Well, yes, I just, you know, need some general direction how we're doing with that. And I know that you've made a lot of changes, and so just want to report on it, that's all.
Yeah, appreciate that. We did get the go-ahead to work with Alberta Transportation again on their road shoulder spraying. So all of the secondaries on the north side of the county, as well as Highway 36 north from the number 1 to Emerson Bridge. And we'll be also spraying the number 1. And I believe we're going east this year.
Brian, Kelly, Hubie.
So I have 2 questions. First of all, in regards to the campgrounds, do you know of the status of the other campgrounds within the county? Not only the ones that are under county land, but on the provincial side of it. And second question is, how are your crews doing? I know you outlined last time you did a report on your summer cruise, how you were intended on doing the distancing thing. How is it working out, I guess, from a functionality point of view?
I just wanted to write those down so I didn't forget what I had to to talk about. I guess anecdotally, I know a little bit about the campground stuff, and Lane might have a little more information just because he sits still in that EOC meeting regularly. I understand that Alberta Parks opened up reservations on May 14th for June 1st, camping, and that will be every second site. So when we talked about this last time, that was, all based on May 12th information and recommendations. And I think sounds like there was some more documentation forwarded that I might not have looked hard enough to find on May 18th, but it was shared with me from a wonderful ratepayer that has been very concerned about our direction at Emerson. But anyway, so that's Alberta Parks. I believe they're open every second site for reservations. The EID at the Rolling Hills Reservoir is running, I believe, every second site as well, and opening the same time frame that June 1st. And this is like anecdotally just what I'm hearing, I guess. Crawling Valley, same idea. And then the campgrounds that sit on municipal property or County of Newell property, they seem to be kind of all over the map. Bow City, I'm not sure they had a full direction yet. I think Rolling Hills, the Ag Society there, the one that they run right in the hamlet, they're open. They're taking some reservations now for in the summer. They have a fella down there that was setting up in a teepee, I believe is what Shirley mentioned to me. And so they had to do some workarounds for the washrooms for him. So just some little things, but yeah, it seems like it's relatively consistent that things are slowly opening, just with different restrictions in different places. And as far as the crew goes, I can tell you that you can put everything in place that makes it sound perfect and it's going to work out 100%. And it doesn't always work that way. We find it, I guess it's hard to do hands-on learning and training and teamwork in a distant setting. So we do make a lot of reminders that everybody needs to keep that physical distancing when they're working. That they have the right PPE to do their job. If they wanted to wear a mask, or if they have to be too close to each other to wear a mask, they have gloves, they have all that kind of jazz. We've hit the end. We're trying to do single person in a vehicle. And we think that's working so far, as long as we don't have to have too many people going in too many directions. So far, I think we've only had a few people that have had to travel together, which is kind of nice.
I'm getting some.
Yeah, me too.
Some feedback.
I've got some mics on. Ellen, you have your mic on.
What?
Yeah, Ellen does. Yeah, that's it. Ariana does too, but I think that's for Lane. So Lane, do you have any more recommendations or comments about the other parks for Brian in case I missed something?
No, the only additional information to provide is that each of the 4 campground facilities that are on county-owned land that are operated by community groups, they were sent information which included the provincial government's campground guide on how those facilities should operate going forward. And it's very detailed on what they need to be doing. Todd had mentioned the fact that it's every other campground space to make sure that there is adequate distance between campers and that common facilities, showers, washrooms are to remain closed, and any other common areas that are subject to touching or possible transmission points are to be disinfected frequently and on a regular schedule. So that information was sent out to each of the community groups. What they're doing individually, I'm not sure. They were told that they would have the responsibility to make sure that if they're going to open those facilities, they have to comply with the standards that the provincial government has set.
Does that help, Brian?
We'll move on to Kelly's question and then Hubie's.
So mine goes back to your conversation with Alberta Transportation around spraying, Todd. It's a pet peeve of mine, the way Alberta Transportation allows their overgrowth, their trees, their a lot of times they're deads, to continue to be in sight path of intersections along their road allowances. I've talked to Mark about it, but I thought, and he's sure that there is no budget for that, but I just wanted to put it out there to you, if you ever get the opportunity to talk with them about offering services, that maybe it would be an opportunity for the county to support Alberta Transportation, not financially, mind you, but through the labor force, contractually, in the winter months when we're looking for work, because there are definitely those intersections and those road allowances that need attention.
Yeah, I'm glad you've talked with Mark on that as well. We have a great relationship with Volker and Alberta Transportation here at the county, and I hear other municipalities don't have that same great relationship, but we send them many concerns as well, and what they often tell us is that, you know, they do deal with concerns as they come up, but they like to hear about them from more than just us. So if it's a concern for you, Kelly, you know, there's the wonderful Volker Steven, I don't know if it's called a complaint line, but I'll say complaint line or recommendation line. And then, yeah, between Mark and myself, we talk with those guys lots. So we'll definitely, if you have those kinds of sites, and Mark probably has them on his list too. But yeah, we'd be happy to work with Wade and those guys over there at Volker for sure. It's good to keep recommending things as we see them, right?
Hubie?
Well, I don't have a question. I have a compliment. I'd like to compliment Todd and his crew on the nice job they've done in Tilly here in the back alleys, and everything's looking really good. And it's much nicer to pick up solid waste in an alley that doesn't have ruts. So thank you, Todd.
That's good, Hubie. I appreciate that. This was our second year, I believe, doing that. And I think Patricia is the one that did it for us. And I think she did a really good job this year. And I think it's just a matter of maybe getting a little more familiarity with the machine and stuff. So I'll definitely pass that on.
Thanks. It's looking good.
Excellent. Wayne, did you have your hand up? No? Your pen kept appearing. I didn't know if is that your question or not. So any other questions or comments? Todd, Van, as far as our parks and tennis courts, whatever it is that we're in charge of goes, you're sort of just taking, discussing things with grasslands and slowly moving forward then is the plan?
Yeah, I think, you know, we like to do things at relatively the same time as the rest of the region. So I was a little bit shocked to see initially that the city was opening up right away. So we're happy that they're opening. We're just going to try to kind of rush to make it at about the same time so that we kind of have some sort of same timeline. I would hope that we could have, you know, council's blessing to create some signage that we can replace the current ones that are there. Just saying, you know, what we talked about, you know, maintain your physical distancing, wash your hands before and after use, all the rest of those kinds of good things, just so that people have the responsibility to do the right thing while they're using the structures and the tennis courts, but at the same time, allowing them to enjoy the fresh air outside.
Yes, and I just want to, I'll actually read out what I heard yesterday in our town hall meeting. The Penhold mayor, Mayor Vargo, asked if he could get some clear direction re playgrounds because he said that alberta.ca and emergency management had different things on their websites. So Dr. Dino said that she wasn't aware of that and would look into it to make sure that the info was the same. But she said the information from health was that playgrounds can open, except of course Calgary and Brooks were slower. And it's up to the municipalities involved to make their decisions when. Guidance is published on the website, and she said the health people have not told munis to clean playgrounds. She felt it's up to families. They should stay away if they're sick, and they should be going with clean hands and supplies to keep them clean. And she would check on the different info on the various websites, but health bases their decisions on COVID-19 precautions and common sense. Tanya Furr, the Economic Development Minister, said she'd love to open up everything back to normal, but watching other jurisdictions, that's just not a wise thing to do, that the health and safety of Albertans must be first. So I think we're right in line with everything that health is thinking. So once, Todd, some decisions are made, I guess it'll all be on our website and whatever, right?
Yeah, certainly. We'll work towards getting some new signs designed, and our wonderful friend Ariana is usually our greatest asset in that. So we'll wait till you guys are done with this council meeting to ask her that. I see she's staring at me now, so that's. But anyways, yeah, we'll do that, and then of course we'll keep everybody updated on the website. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Todd. Anything else for Todd? Although now that he's working with us on these meetings, we know how to find him. He can run and try to hide, but we'll find him. All right, we'll go on to the admin business, item 10.1, which is the appointment to the County of Newell Library Board. And this came from Lane. So we'll pass it over to Lane, and we have more information on this. Go ahead, Lane.
So we have received, I guess, confirmation that one of the library board members had submitted their resignation. Since this was put together, we've actually received an update as well that another member has also submitted her resignation, Miranda Lease. So there are now 2 openings on the library board. Councillor Christman, I think, will probably want to provide some comments for council to be considering on this as well. Given the fact that there are now 2 vacancies on the board, I think it would probably be appropriate for council to make a decision to go ahead and go through the normal open recruitment process and invite applications for any other individuals that might be interested in letting their name stand for consideration for appointment to the library board. It's a fairly straightforward process, but it's not something that would require council to be making a decision today, if that's the direction that you want to take. I don't know if Councillor Christman has any comments that she would want to add to that as the library board member. That's a summary of the issue.
Sure, thanks, James. I just wanted to reassure council that there is not a pandemic going on in the County of Newell Library Board, although we do have 2 resignations. The resignation was from a member at Rosemary, and she's only been on for about 1.5 years, and maybe it just wasn't what she thought it was going to be. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to her personally, but and our chair, Miranda Thies, she has a young family, and I believe, and she's also chair of the Tilley Library Board. So she is very involved, and I think, according to her comments, she was overwhelmed with all that is involved with the Newell Library Board. Although we only meet 4 times a year, there is background work, and having a young family, homeschooling, that sort of thing. Maybe she was feeling overwhelmed. So I don't feel that we have an issue within the board. We do have a lot of new people on the board, so there is going to be a curve. Our plan for the next meeting is not until September. I don't know if with this chair resignation will ignite the need for a meeting before then or not. But yeah, I would recommend that we advertise in both Div 7 and Tilly area, and see what comes out. We do have the offer of Mr. Paul Barkas. I will just wreck his name, but he is a resident of the village of Rosemary, and our policy, although can be changed by council, but our policy in the past, or our policy states that division members sit on the County of Newell board. So I would like us to follow that in light of the 2 resignations now. Thanks.
Any other comments? So then I would think that we would go ahead and advertise as we have done in the past then, as Lane suggested. Correct, Lane? You can just go ahead with that then?
That would certainly be the steps that we would take.
All right. Anne-Marie?
And yeah, I agree with Kelly that it has to be clear that it's got to be a county resident in the advertising.
All right. Nothing else on that. Thank you. The next thing, item 10.2, is a request for proclamation for Seniors Week, June 1st to 7th. Kelly?
I was looking around the screen, and I was thinking maybe somebody who's not a senior would make that proclamation, so I will do that.
How kind of you. Moved by Kelly. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And to our executive assistant to put in some information on our annual joint meetings with the EID in the fall, and Grasslands, I guess, is usually next month in June. It seems strange it's June, I don't know. The days go fast, but it's, yeah. Anyhow, I guess we need to figure out if we want to do virtual meeting or if we want to wait. Brian.
I would prefer that we wait. I think that from my perspective, I get much more out of it just having a face-to-face one with them. I mean, if we can do virtually if we have to, but it's not my first choice.
Anne-Marie?
Same here. Unless there are really urgent issues, which we haven't really had in the past anyway, I am okay with just putting it off to the fall or next spring.
Any other different ideas than that? People okay with that? Yeah, I'm seeing no concerns about delaying till we can meet in person if at all possible. And we, with a proviso for sure that if anything comes up that requires a virtual meeting, we certainly would be into doing that. Anne-Marie?
Yeah, and if there is an issue or if there is a need to meet, it could still be between the chair and the reef. It doesn't have to be all 20 people.
All right, we'll play it by ear and see how it goes. And if Grasslands has a desire to have a meeting with us, then certainly we could do something. But otherwise, we'll assume that we'll delay. Same with the EID. All right, item 10.4, the Halo Air Ambulance Program. And this letter was received last week, I guess it was. And I have had two conversations actually with Reeve of Cypress County. And I believe that in the next week or so that there's a group of people getting together to put together a presentation to the Southeast mayors and Reeves in regards to this. And any other comments or feelings about this? Wayne.
I really do believe this is probably a pretty good service, but it's just not viable. They're always short of money. I think they have to look at a different way of working with STARS and try to get the provincial government, because the money that they're looking for, we just don't have. So I think we should encourage them to really start working with STARS and the government to try and solve their problems.
Other comments? I'm not sure where it is on the government's agenda, because if you recall, the government had given them some money and there was a study being done looking at the efficiencies of our helicopter air service. And it's unfortunate that we don't know yet the results of that, because my feeling is that the way Halo has been run is that it is a very efficient organization because it's had to be that way. And it seems to have served a purpose, certainly more in the southeast corner, but it does also come as far, certainly into our county as well. And looking at a different way of working with STARS would certainly be a good thing to do, but that's been our sort of issue all along, isn't it? We're not quite sure how the two of these groups function together, and we were hoping that that study would reveal more. But any other thoughts? Brian.
Well, not much different than what you provided, Wayne, but I guess my idea is that it's this is not a primary municipal service. It does service residents, but we could make the same argument for a lot of, whether it's schools. This is an Alberta Health and Alberta Transportation thing. It really doesn't involve municipal funding, and we simply don't have the means to provide it. And unfortunately, it's probably going to cost some lives. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that there's just so much we can do.
Anything else? All right. Councillor payment sheets. Any questions on those? Otherwise, a motion to accept them. Lionel moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And checks for payment. The payment register is there. Questions on that? If not, a motion for acceptance of the payment register. Hubie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Request for functions of council. Committee reports. I realized last night that I had a meeting that I hadn't written up something about, so I was going to be lazy and just tell you a little bit about it. It was last Friday from, forget what time it was. It was about an hour anyhow. Dr. Laura McDougall and from Alberta Health Services, and Janine Saskich from Alberta Health Services Community Engagement, and another doctor, Catherine Koliaska from Safe and Healthy Environments with Alberta Health. And this was after the Alberta Biz Connect Biz Connect, I think it is, which is a great place to go for businesses and for anybody wanting to get up-to-date information on how the relaunch rules are being laid out and played out. And so they sort of talked about putting the two of those things together, the business launch and managing COVID in a safe way. And Alberta Health is committed to providing support to the businesses to not lose the ground that we have gained on this. And so they have tried to put workplace guidance together for getting solid practices in place to minimize infection and transmission risk. And they have a plan in place for people who begin to feel sick, workers and patrons in stores or wherever, and that all people can maintain high levels of sanitation in businesses and comply with the guidelines of Alberta Health Services and Biz Connect. And so they have lots of information on the website in regards to PPE, physical distancing, signage, contact tracing, screening, cleaning and disinfecting public facilities. And I've written lots of information about that, but as I said, it's all information that is apparently on their website. And there's always interesting things that they present that I've never heard about. Somebody had asked a question about what about clothes, if you've been around somebody that has COVID-19, and said you should maybe let them sit aside for a few days, but there were people thinking that they would have to be steamed, and if items had been tried on by somebody in a store that was sick. And the big message here is that sick people should not be in a store. Sick people should be staying home. And if there's something that we need to keep that in mind now, maybe that will change a lot of our colds and flus and things that go around if people in fact stick to that rule to stay home if you're not feeling well. they talked about restaurants and how that would work, staff trying to minimize or organize the flow of things. And people asked about, well, maybe we should have all disposable cutlery and plates. And obviously health is giving people guidance and letting businesses make their own decisions about some things like that. There's wild questions in all of these calls, like whitewater rafting. There's a question about whitewater rafting. I think I've been on too many of these calls because after a while, those are the things that I go, oh, that's sort of intriguing, but I don't know how many of us need to know about it. But the thing that is emphasized all the time is trying to keep everyone safe is the goal. Barriers, signage, all sorts of things. There's people ask questions if pulsometers, those are those things that you can put on your finger to see your oxygen level. They do when you're in the hospital. There's people ask that if maybe we should all have those, that would help us know how our body is functioning. Face masks and gloves and face shields are all wonderful, but disposal of this stuff is really important and how to handle it. So people wonder if in gatherings being a limit of 15, but if you're in a big building, perhaps Alberta Health Services will be looking at more specifics to understand how that would work. And companies that are just opening had a couple of weeks to get all of this stuff organized. So, and the doctors involved in all of this are very aware that there will be changes as we go and as people experience things and as businesses experience things. But everyone wants to get business back up and running. It's not about holding back the economy, but it's doing it in a safe way. And they really want to emphasize that. So anyhow, that was another health call. Anybody else have anything to report from anything? Joint Services has not been meeting. I see it's on the agenda there. Post agenda item that we have is an in-camera one. The rest of the items on our agenda are corporate strategic priorities and event submission form.
Molly?
Yeah.
Would like to report on Shortgrass. We had a meeting yesterday, if I can.
Awesome.
Okay, so Shortgrass library system met yesterday, and there were a few items that may be of interest. We approved an increased budget line of $15,000 to go directly to Overdrive eBooks. The system has experienced quite an increase in online book usage, reading, and we're happy that we're in a position that we're able to support that. And so that was approved at yesterday's meeting. There was also a discussion. We haven't received correspondence officially from the City of Medicine Hat, but the city verbally has requested a levy cut for 2021 of 5%. So we had a discussion around that, how that would impact the system, and we replied by asking for a letter in writing outlining exactly what the city would expect from the system and for how long, that sort of thing. So right now it's just been a verbal discussion with staff, and our city councillor, Phil Turnbull, was also involved with the conversation at Shortgrass. So stay tuned for more information on that. They're apparently cutting 5% across the board for their entire budget for 2021. And for Newell Library, for the Newell libraries, we've had a request, and I'd just like to ask Lane to report. Village of Duchess librarian requested support in the PPE department. So with Anne-Marie's help, we reached out to Lane to see what we could offer. Not that Duchess Library is our library, but we do have libraries within our system that we are responsible for. So we asked Lane the question. And I suggested a care package. And so Lane, if you could, oh, he's not even in the room. Shoot, okay.
We can address that when Lane returns for sure.
Okay. I just thought that if we had PPE available, that we could provide a care package to our member libraries as well as our mini munis. We had the supplies available.
So have the many munis been giving them some supplies and they're running short? Is that or no?
No, not that I'm aware of. The request was for support for reopening in Duchess, and they inquired at their municipal office and apparently were told that they didn't have funding for that support. So so the librarian was reaching out to the county if we had any supplies for them.
I see Lane is back. So hi, did you hear this?
Yes, Ariane, sorry for stepping out. Yes, we do have supplies that we are bringing in and will make available for the libraries. We anticipate having them available probably towards the end of next week. So they should have them before the libraries would be in a position to open anyway.
Thank you, Lane. I think it's, you know, if we have the supplies, include the mini munis, but if we don't have the supplies, that's fine too. But I do know that it's our responsibility to look after our member libraries, meaning Rolling Hills, Tilly, Alcoma, Gem. So thank you for that, Lane.
Question on Lane made me think about it. When is the proposed? What's the library opening? In what part of the plan in the relaunch bay?
It's my understanding the libraries are included in phase 2, and there's a question as to when that's going to be launched for us. But at this point, that's the information we have.
And if I could just add to that, it depends where the library is housed. So our school libraries are still up in the air. They don't quite fit into phase 2 because of the school closures. So in our case, that would mean GEM only in our member library situation because they're a standalone library. The others are all school-based. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens and how that relaunch works for them. That's still up in the air.
I was at the mailboxes in GEM the other day, and there was a car at the library because the library and whoever was the volunteer was doing something at the library that day. It might have been Kimby at the board member too. And another patron of the library was talking through the window to her. So physical distancing in GEM. All right, anything else about libraries? So I think we are at that time in our meeting where we go to our 11:30 public hearings. And so we need a motion to move into public hearing. Moved by Ellen. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And so our first public hearing notice is for 1969-20, a road closure and lease. And I believe I saw Marie already to rock and roll.
Hi. This is Bylaw 1969-20 for road closure and lease, like Molly had just said. It is for two pieces of road allowance, one next to the east half of 1916-12, and the other adjacent to the east half of 2016-12. These road allowances are in Division 2, approximately 10 kilometers south of Tilly, and they are both leading to the Bantry No. 1 reservoir. The road allowance adjacent to the east half of 2016-12 is currently being irrigated by the landowner on both sides of the road allowance. And the portion on the east half of 16-12 is also partially being irrigated and also being used by the landowner. And he owns both parcels of land on either side of the road allowance. This has been advertised for 2 consecutive weeks, and we received 2 calls, one from Torkson and one from CNRL. They were concerned about access to a well, to 2 different wells that they have, and they utilize that access, or the road allowance for access. And we had said that we will accommodate access for them with the lease agreement, and they were both companies were satisfied with that and in favor of the road closure and lease. So today we would recommend council giving first reading to the road closure and lease of these road allowances.
Questions, folks? No questions, no comments? Hubie?
Well, it looks like the EID can access this reservoir as well, so looks good to me, and I would entertain first reading.
We'll have to wait.
Okay.
It's have to wait, Hubie. We've got to go through them all, and then you can.
Okay.
Once we get out of.
Sorry, I apologize for that. I was putting the cart before the horse there. Okay, so
we'll go on. We'll go on to Bylaw 1989-20.
Okay, Bylaw 1989-20 is again for a road closure and lease. This portion of road allowance is along the south boundary of the southwest of 15, 17, 16. It is currently being utilized as part of the irrigation farming operation by the owner to the north of the road allowance. Closing this road allowance will not affect access to any of the adjacent parcels. Approval to proceed was given on March 5th by council. The public hearing was advertised for 2 consecutive weeks and circulated to the adjacent landowners, and we have not received any comments or objections to the road closure.
Thanks, Maria. Questions? Clarence.
When I looked at this particular one, on the internet, where the heck is that road? When you look to the west and the road coming out and you sort of picture where the road is and who's using it, all of a sudden the lines aren't straight anymore. Does anybody on these types of situations really know where the road is. And the other question I have, there is some kind of a structure on the east side, close to the east, furthest east on this particular property. I have no idea what it is. Are there oil coming from this also?
Maria?
Sorry, I'm just looking for that structure. Could you clarify a little bit maybe where that is? We did circulate it to all the oil and gas companies that were listed on title, and there were no objections or comments received if it is an oil or gas facility. But as far as where the road allowances are located, I think the answer would be no. I don't think that a lot of landowners know necessarily where they are unless they have been surveyed. You, especially if you buy a piece of land, I guess, if you haven't looked at the survey and the road isn't established, then it depends on what side of the road the fence is, whether you're using it or not.
It was just kind of interesting to me when I looked at it that it didn't look like where the trail was in line with the road to the west. And that's nothing unusual in the countryside. I mean, there's roads all over that are. When I look at the road just south in Rolling Hills, if you're coming off 875 and you look east, well, you're out by 100 yards by the time you follow it along. I mean, it's not right at all. But I just it was just interesting to me when I looked at it that it was very, very mushy on where the road actually was. No doubt, though, the person to the north looks like it would be using the road allowance, but he might be going further than the road allowance. That's all I comment. As far as where this structure was, I have no idea what it is. It might have even been a piece of machinery at the time. If you look at the two circles that are there, and I can't pull it up now because I'm using all my computers already. It was in where the two circles, the V that's caused after the two circles mesh, there was something there, and I couldn't really figure out what it was. I thought, it almost looked like an oil installation, but maybe it's not. Just a question.
Our department has made up a little pamphlet regarding road allowances, and we've distributed it to the EID and to some of the irrigation businesses in town, just hopefully making people aware of that there are road allowances, whether there's a road there or not. And keeping that in mind when they're putting up pivots or installing new irrigation systems, with the hope that they will come visit us or keep it in mind when they're trying to maximize the number of acres under a system.
Brian?
Is it possible that line that goes through the east side there, is that the old rail line? Is that some of the confusion, or is that something different than you're talking about that goes up to Council?
Yeah, that is the old rail line, and so that's that part looks like a road, but the road allowance in question is directly south of that quarter.
Going east and west. And it doesn't show it very well on the map that you did, but when I look at Google Maps, it's just a mush in there, and then there is some kind of a structure in that V on the east side. And so I was just a question.
Anything else on that one? All right, we'll go on to item 7.4, bylaw road closure and lease 1990-20.
Okay, thanks. This is another road closure and lease adjacent to the west half of 24-2014. This road allowance is approximately 4 kilometers west of Millicent and 5 kilometers east of Dutchess. The road allowance is partially on the butte, so it's quite a elevation, I guess. And then also there's an old road bed that goes through it, so it's quite a rough road allowance piece of land. The applicant has installed new pivots and is currently irrigating the road allowance, which is the reason for the closure request. So again, the public hearing was advertised for 2 consecutive weeks and circulated to adjacent landowners. I did get a call from one of the adjacent landowners who wanted to discuss the proposed closure, and he had no objections or comments. He just was interested in what was going on, and we received a easement from Fortis. They would like that registered on that piece along with the lease, and so that's no problem on our side of things. And that was it for comments for that one.
Questions? Clarence?
Again, just a clarification, we call it option 2. Was there an option 1?
Option 1. I'm sorry, I don't think sorry, could you clarify that a little bit for me?
Yeah, Marie, I just, it kind of confused me. I looked at the 2 maps and I thought, the second one, and I noticed it's called option 2. So then I looked at the first one and it was option 2 also. So then I'm thinking, well, where's option 1?
Okay, so is that for bylaw 1966-19?
Am I looking at the wrong, 1966-19, yes?
Yeah, so that one is for second and third reading. And when we took that, when I presented that for first reading, I had 2 options based on what the EID, comments from the EID. So that one I think is coming for second and third reading. That's not the one right now.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Anything else on the bylaws that we're talking about, the 3 of them, and the public hearing part of this? If not, Kelly?
No, I was just going to offer a motion to move out of camera.
All right. Move out of public hearings.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I knew that. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Takes us to the first reading of bylaw 1969-20. This is for first reading. Anne Marie? We'll move that. Further discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried for first reading, which takes us to bylaw 1989-20, the road closure and lease for first reading also. Tracy moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for bylaw 1990-20, road closure and lease for first reading. Brian moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is item 8.4, also a road closure and lease that we'll let Maria talk to us again, remind us what this one's all about, and it's for second and third reading.
Okay, thank you. This is another road closure and lease. It is in the south portion of the county, right along, well, close or along, the Bow River. The road allowance is adjacent to the southeast of 81413, northeast of 51413, and the southeast of 51413. The landowner is currently irrigating portions of the road allowance along with the adjacent irrigation operation. This bylaw received approval to proceed on October 10th, public hearing and first reading on February 6th, and Alberta transportation approval on April 22nd. Part of the public hearing was that the EID had requested that we move the road closure line south of the quarter line by 30 meters to allow them access into their quarter on the east portion of that road. And so we did that, and they are satisfied with that change. And now we are recommending second and third reading for this road closure and lease.
Clarence, did you have a question before we go ahead?
No, I don't. I was going to make the motion.
Okay, I think
Right spot in the agenda.
I think Wayne had beat you to the motion, so
Okay, that's fine.
second reading moved by Wayne. Discussion, all in favor? Oh, Kelly?
Just a
question.
Just a question, yeah, for Maria. So we have the EID approval in writing at their, yeah, good. Just so we have it on file.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Okay, good question. Second reading, all in favor? Motion is carried. And for third reading, Clarence moves. All in favor? Opposed? No one's opposed. All good. Motion is carried. So I think that's it for the bylaws and readings of them. Correct, Maria?
That's all for me.
Okay. Thank you. I believe that takes us our meeting, aside from some in-camera discussion. correct? I think. So we need a motion to move in camera. Tracy moves us in camera. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. So we are